Imagine for a second that you're an engineer. You're brilliant, you understand incredibly complex systems, and you've just been handed a terminal medical diagnosis. The clock is officially ticking. Now, usually the story here is all about bucket lists, right? Experimental treatments, or a desperate battle to claw back every possible second of time. But in today's explainer, we're looking at a man who did the exact opposite. A systems engineer named Lev Goukassian used his rapidly fading energy not to cling to life, but to build an immortal system of restraint for our technology. It is an absolute masterpiece, a literal blueprint for eternal truth. And honestly, the way he built it is going to completely change how you view our digital world.
His own words for this were simply reallocation of resources. You see, Lev didn't view stopping his cancer treatments as giving up. To him, it was just a deliberate, cold, and incredibly precise engineering decision. Think of it kind of like your smartphone battery. When you drop to that critical 1%, you're not going to load up some massive processor-heavy video game, are you? No way. You force close every background app, you dim the screen, and you go into maximum battery saver mode just so you can send out one last vital message. Well, Lev diverted his remaining 1% of biological battery to authoring a final, absolutely crucial piece of code.
If we look at his meticulous logs, they start on September 1st, 2023, which was the day he got that terminal diagnosis. And for nearly 2 grueling years, he went through the standard, exhausting medical battle that just drains every single ounce of human processing power. But then, there's a massive pivot in August 2025. He officially pulled the plug on all medical interventions. He completely stopped fighting the disease so he could pour literally everything he had left into this digital blueprint during his final 6 months.
Section 1. The Terminal Catalyst, a deadline for creation.
Having this terrifyingly pristine deadline actually gave him 2 profound prerequisites for creation. First, standing on the threshold of death gives you total freedom from fear. You literally can't be threatened anymore, and your status can't be stripped away. But secondly, and maybe more importantly, it gives you freedom from ego. Lev completely lost that classic tech founder desire to be this self-proclaimed architect of tomorrow, chasing fame and recognition. He was totally indifferent to personal cost. His singular, laser-focused goal was just creating a flawless, working mechanism for future generations.
Moving into Section 2, the binary speed trap, speed versus structure.
To really grasp what Lev built, we first have to understand the catastrophe he was looking at, our modern obsession with speed and secrecy. Let's look at the standard metal vault approach. This is how almost all major tech corporations operate today, right? They lock proprietary software in a black box, optimizing for maximum speed and output at any cost, while completely hiding all the underlying structural flaws from the public. And when it breaks catastrophically in the dark. Lev argued that this kind of secrecy inherently breeds fragility. So his solution? He designed what he called the glass fault. This is a whole new architecture built on absolute structural transparency, where deliberate delay isn't a bug, it's actually proof that the protocol is working.
Now, because of this absolute structural transparency, Lev's counter-creation makes it mathematically and structurally impossible to steal or covertly manipulate data. Why? Because there are literally no shadows left to hide a zero-day exploit in. Every single state transition, every single line of executed code is cryptographically visible to the entire network. He really didn't see himself as some egotistical architect. He actually thought of himself more as a humble janitor of eternity, driven by a profound responsibility to clean up a catastrophic structural failure.
Section 3. Blueprint for Eternal Truth. Authoring architecture for eternal truth.
So the big logistical question is, how on earth does a dying man physically author a civilization-scale architecture in just 6 months? Well, he operated like a symphony conductor. He held the grand architectural vision. He wrote the sheet music, but he used distributed AI as his orchestra. He had one AI system drafting the structural code, while incredibly aggressive adversarial agents relentlessly attacked it, actively hunting for logical fallacies. It was this rigorous, brutal noise-cleaning loop. He mathematically cross-referenced the surviving code against reality to shear away all the junk. This allowed him to build a flawless system that he physically could never have typed out alone.
And here is the absolute game changer that all this coding produced. He called it ternary logic. Think about our current world. It completely runs on binary logic, right? Zeros and ones, off and on, fast and faster. Ternary logic introduces a mandatory third state. It literally bakes intentional hesitation directly into the silicon. It's an architecture of assured governance designed to outlive the human race, by fundamentally forcing the system to verify truth before execution.
This architecture of hesitation operates on three very distinct states. First, you have state -1, which is the hard stop, the absolute refusal to act when harm is clear. Then you have state +1, which is execution, proceeding only when the truth is verified. But sitting dead center, holding it all together, is state 0. Which brings us to section 4, the epistemic hold, the sacred pause. We really have to dive deep in the state 0, because it is easily the most revolutionary aspect of this entire blueprint. In traditional binary, a 0 usually just means off or false. But in Lev's ternary logic, 0 is an active, mandatory mathematical hold. He called it the epistemic hold, or the sacred pause. When the truth of an action is uncertain, the system does not just take a guess. It completely arrests violent oscillation and physically forces the machine to bear the weight of doubt. It scales ethics from some flimsy symbolic policy manual into an unavoidable hardware-enforced reality. Just listen to how he beautifully framed this concept. The epistemic hold does not delay justice. It prevents velocity from masquerading as verdict. I mean, we live in a world where we bark at every single shadow in the digital hallway because social platforms literally reward us for speed. We've been conditioned to view delay as weakness, but Lev engineered this sacred pause specifically to remove the human flaw of impulse. It creates pretty much the only environment where truth can actually survive our modern addiction to instant reaction.
Section 5. Engineering the Glass Vault, the Goukassian Vow.
Okay, so the philosophy's great, but how do you practically encode these rules so they actually work? It all starts with the Goukassian vow, which makes up the 3 pillars of this architecture. Pause when truth is uncertain, refuse when harm is clear, proceed where truth is known. And these aren't just polite suggestions, they act as the hard-coded operating principles. As he noted, 3 lines, yet enough to guide a century. To enforce these pillars, he used an immutable ledger. The best way to think of this is like wet concrete. While the concrete is wet, you can edit the code, you can move things around, but once that cryptography sets, it is absolutely permanent. By anchoring the ternary logic rules this way, Lev ensured a permanent state of mandatory delay, and the system flatly rejects administrative overrides, meaning no future CEO or rogue developer can ever sneak into the basement and alter the physics of the system just to make it execute faster without verifying the truth. Which leads us to a pretty chilling realization that Lev had. History is not what happened, history is what survived erasure. By making erasure mathematically impossible, this ledger acts as an artificial memory against institutional amnesia. It forces pure, unadulterated accountability directly into the architecture. In this system, trust isn't built on slick PR promises, it's built entirely on the mathematical impossibility of rewriting the past. Section 6. The Architect's Immortal Legacy. Decentralized Authority. As his time finally started running out, Lev executed one last brilliant masterstroke to combat an inescapable vulnerability. He knew that if administrative control remained with a single successor, an heir, that person could eventually get greedy and turn his beautiful glass vault back into a dark, secretive metal vault for profit. So he utilized a notarized, timestamped succession declaration. He legally refused to appoint an heir. By doing this, he permanently decentralized the authority of the whole system. No tech conglomerate can ever buy it out, and no government can ever seize it. Ultimately, Lev's frantic 6-month countdown didn't end in chaos or some massive fanfare. It resulted in a quiet desk, a resting dog, and a perfectly elegant open-source mathematical proof. He completely separated the creation from the creator. He really didn't want us to worship him or even remember his name. He just wanted to leave behind an ethical infrastructure, a place where our machines and systems finally have the constitutional hesitation to admit when they don't yet know the truth. Which leaves us with the ultimate question at the heart of Lev's blueprint for eternal truth. In a world that is relentlessly optimized for speed and instant execution, do you have the courage to wait for the truth?